Welcome to the mysterious world of Sleepy Hollow, a place shrouded in legend and drowsy tranquility. Nestled in a quiet valley near the Hudson River, this rural community is famous for its dreamy atmosphere and the supernatural tales that have haunted its people for generations. The story you are about to hear is one of the most enduring American legends, written by Washington Irving and set in a land where reality and imagination blur. Prepare to journey through a land of sleepy brooks, ancient trees, and the ever-present sense that something magical or perhaps sinister lingers in the air. Our tale begins near Tarrytown, a small market village on the eastern shore of the Hudson River. This peaceful community, surrounded by rolling hills and tranquil brooks, is known for its slow pace and the peculiar habits of its residents. The name Tarrytown itself comes from the tendency of local men to linger at the tavern on market days, much to the chagrin of their wives. Just a couple of miles away lies a secluded valley, a place so quiet and undisturbed that it seems to exist outside the rush of the modern world. Here, the seeds of legend take root. Not far from Tarrytown lies Sleepy Hollow, a secluded glen enveloped by high hills and shaded by tall walnut trees. A gentle brook murmurs through the valley, and the only sounds are the occasional calls of birds or the tapping of a woodpecker. This place is renowned for its tranquility and the almost magical sense of stillness that pervades the air. For generations, the inhabitants, descendants of Dutch settlers, have lived under a dreamy, almost bewitched influence, giving rise to countless tales of visions, trances, and supernatural happenings. Sleepy Hollow is said to be under a spell, cast either by a German doctor or an old Indian chief, depending on whom you ask. The air itself seems to carry a drowsy, magical quality, causing even newcomers to fall under its influence. The people here are prone to believing in the marvelous and the strange, often reporting visions, mysterious music, and ghostly apparitions. The valley is rich with haunted spots and superstitions, making it a fertile ground for the stories that have become its legacy. At the heart of Sleepy Hollow's legends is the Headless Horseman, a ghostly figure said to be the spirit of a Hessian trooper who lost his head to a cannonball during the Revolutionary War. Locals claim to see him riding through the night, searching for his lost head, especially near the old church and along the shadowy roads. The horseman is the most feared and talked about specter in the region, inspiring awe and terror in equal measure among the townsfolk. The legend of the Headless Horseman is more than just a story. It shapes the very identity of Sleepy Hollow. Tales of the horseman and other supernatural events are passed down through generations, told around firesides and at gatherings. Even those who move to the valley find themselves drawn into its web of superstition, eventually seeing visions and hearing things that defy explanation. The line between reality and myth is thin here, and the horseman's shadow looms large over all. Sleepy Hollow is a place where time seems to stand still. While the rest of the country changes and modernizes, this little Dutch valley remains much as it always has been. The customs, families, and even the landscape are preserved, untouched by the rush of progress. It's a haven for those seeking peace and a connection to the past, but it's also a place where old fears and superstitions never quite die. Into this world steps Ichabod Crane, a lanky, awkward schoolmaster from Connecticut. Ichabod is known for his tall, thin frame, long limbs, and small head, giving him a comical, almost scarecrow-like appearance. He comes to Sleepy Hollow to teach the children, but soon becomes a fixture in the community, known for his voracious appetite, his love of singing, and his keen interest in local legends, especially those involving ghosts and witches. Ichabod's schoolhouse is a simple, rustic building made of logs, with windows patched by old copybooks. It sits at the foot of a wooded hill, near a brook and a formidable birch tree. The school is a place of learning, but also of discipline. Ichabod is known for his strictness, though he claims to follow the maxim, "Spare the rod and spoil the child." Despite his stern reputation, he is fair and even gentle with his students, especially the younger and weaker ones. Ichabod lives a humble, itinerant life, boarding with different families each week in exchange for his teaching. He helps out on the farms, mends fences, and even rocks cradles for the mothers. His income is meager, so he relies on the hospitality of the community, making himself useful and agreeable wherever he goes. He is also the singing master, teaching psalmody and earning a little extra by leading the church choir. Despite his odd looks, Ichabod is considered a man of importance, especially among the women of Sleepy Hollow. He is seen as refined and educated, second only to the parson in learning. At social gatherings, he is often the center of attention, charming the local damsels with his stories and songs. His knowledge of books, especially those about witchcraft, adds to his mystique and makes him a favorite among the superstitious townsfolk. Ichabod is deeply fascinated by tales of the supernatural. He spends his afternoons reading about witchcraft and ghosts, often scaring himself as dusk falls. At night, every sound in the woods, an owl's hoot, a rustling in the bushes feeds his vivid imagination. To calm his nerves, he sings psalms as he walks home, his nasal melodies drifting through the evening air and adding to his reputation as a peculiar but endearing figure. One of Ichabod's favorite pastimes is spending winter evenings with the old Dutch wives, listening to their ghost stories by the fire. The tales of haunted bridges, fields, and especially the headless horseman both terrify and delight him. These evenings are warm and safe, but the walk home is another matter. Every shadow and sound becomes a potential specter, and Ichabod's imagination runs wild with fear. Among Ichabod's singing students is Katrina Van Tassel, the beautiful and wealthy daughter of a prosperous Dutch farmer. Katrina is admired for her charm, beauty, and considerable inheritance. She is a bit of a coquette, enjoying the attention of her many admirers. Ichabod is quickly smitten, seeing in Katrina not only a lovely companion, but also the promise of a comfortable and prosperous future. The Van Tassel farm is the picture of abundance and comfort. With its sprawling barn, well-kept fields, and bustling farmyard, it represents everything Ichabod dreams of. He imagines himself as master of this domain, enjoying the fruits of the land and the delights of Katrina's company. The farm is a symbol of prosperity, and Ichabod's ambitions grow as he envisions a future filled with plenty. As Ichabod visits the Van Tassel home, his imagination runs wild. He pictures himself married to Katrina, inheriting the farm, and living a life of luxury. He dreams of turning the farm's bounty into wealth, investing in land, and building a grand future. These daydreams fuel his determination to win Katrina's heart, even as he faces stiff competition from other suitors. Ichabod's main rival for Katrina's affection is Brom Van Brunt, better known as Brom Bones. Brom is a burly, boisterous local hero, famous for his strength, horsemanship, and mischievous sense of humor. He is admired and feared throughout the countryside, and his courtship of Katrina is marked by boldness and bravado. Most other suitors give up when Brom is around, but Ichabod is not so easily discouraged. Unable to win Katrina outright, Brom resorts to practical jokes and playful harassment to undermine Ichabod. He and his gang disrupt Ichabod's singing school, play tricks on him, and even train a dog to mock his singing. Despite these annoyances, Ichabod persists, using his gentle manners and musical talents to stay close to Katrina and her family. One autumn afternoon, Ichabod receives an invitation to a quilting frolic at the Van Tassel farm, a major social event. The message is delivered by a local messenger who arrives with great fanfare. The schoolroom erupts in excitement, and Ichabod dismisses his students early, eager to prepare for the evening's festivities and the chance to impress Katrina. Ichabod spends extra time getting ready for the party, carefully grooming himself and borrowing a horse named Gunpowder from a local farmer. Though the horse is old and shabby, Ichabod mounts up with a sense of adventure, setting off for the Van Tassel farm like a knight on a quest. The journey is filled with the sights and sounds of autumn, and Ichabod's spirits are high as he imagines the evening ahead. As Ichabod rides through the countryside, he is surrounded by the beauty of autumn. The trees are ablaze with color, the fields are full of ripe crops, and the air is crisp and golden. Flocks of birds fill the sky, and the promise of harvest is everywhere. Ichabod's mind wanders to thoughts of delicious food and the comforts of rural life, all of which he hopes to enjoy as Katrina's husband. Ichabod arrives at the Van Tassel farm to find it bustling with guests. Farmers and their families, dressed in their best, fill the house and yard. The atmosphere is lively and festive, with music, laughter, and the aroma of a grand feast. Ichabod is both nervous and excited as he prepares to make his impression on Katrina and the assembled company. Inside, the Van Tassel home is filled with the bounty of the season. Platters of cakes, pies, and preserved fruits cover the tables, alongside savory meats and steaming bowls of milk and cream. Ichabod's appetite is legendary, and he enjoys every delicacy, all the while imagining himself as future master of this abundance. The feast is a highlight of the evening, showcasing the prosperity and hospitality of the Van Tassel family. As the evening progresses, music fills the air, and the guests gather for a lively dance. Ichabod, proud of his dancing skills, takes to the floor with Katrina as his partner. His awkward frame moves with surprising energy, and he becomes the center of attention, especially among the younger guests. Brombones, meanwhile, watches from the sidelines, his jealousy barely concealed. After the dance, the older guests gather on the piazza to share stories of the past tales of war, heroism, and, most of all, ghosts. The conversation turns to the Headless Horseman, with locals recounting their own encounters and the eerie happenings around Sleepy Hollow. The atmosphere grows hushed and tense as the stories become more chilling, leaving a deep impression on Ichabod. The church and its nearby bridge are central to the local legends. Surrounded by ancient trees and a quiet brook, the churchyard is said to be haunted by restless spirits, especially the Headless Horseman. The bridge, shrouded in darkness at night, is the site of many ghostly encounters, and the townsfolk speak of it with a mix of fear and reverence. Brombones entertains the crowd with his own tale of racing the Headless Horseman. He claims to have nearly beaten the ghost in a midnight race, only for the specter to vanish in a flash of fire at the church bridge. Brom's story is met with laughter and disbelief, but it adds to the sense of unease that lingers as the party winds down. As the party ends, Ichabod lingers behind for a private moment with Katrina. The details of their conversation remain a mystery, but Ichabod leaves the house looking dejected and crestfallen. Something has gone wrong, and his hopes for romance seem dashed. With a heavy heart, he mounts Gunpowder and sets off into the night, unaware of the ordeal that awaits him. The hour is late and the night is dark as Ichabod rides home. The landscape, once familiar and welcoming, now feels eerie and foreboding. Every distant sound, a barking dog, a crowing rooster, a chirping cricket, seems amplified by the darkness. Ichabod's mind is filled with the ghost stories he has just heard, and his imagination begins to play tricks on him. Ichabod approaches the infamous tulip tree, known as Major Andre's tree, a landmark steeped in superstition. Its gnarled branches and ghostly appearance unsettle him, and every creak and shadow seems to hint at the supernatural. He tries to whistle to calm his nerves, but the eerie silence and the tree's haunted reputation make the journey all the more terrifying. Near the tree, Ichabod must cross a small, rickety bridge over a brook, another spot infamous for ghostly encounters. His horse, Gunpowder, is nervous and difficult to control, adding to Ichabod's anxiety. As he finally manages to cross, he feels a sense of relief. But new dangers lie ahead in the darkness. Suddenly, Ichabod becomes aware of a shadowy figure riding alongside him. The stranger is silent and imposing, keeping pace with Ichabod no matter how fast or slow he goes. The tension builds as Ichabod realizes that his companion is not just another traveler, but something far more sinister. As they ride together, Ichabod's fear reaches its peak when he sees, silhouetted against the sky, that the stranger is headless and carries his own head on the saddle. Realizing he is face to face with the legendary Headless Horseman, Ichabod's terror turns to desperation. He urges Gunpowder to flee, but the ghostly rider matches his every move. A frantic chase ensues, with Ichabod and Gunpowder racing through the dark woods, pursued relentlessly by the Headless Horseman. Branches whip past, stones fly, and sparks flash as they careen down the road. Ichabod's only hope is to reach the church bridge, the supposed limit of the ghost's power. Ichabod finally reaches the bridge, believing he will be safe. But as he looks back, the Headless Horseman hurls his head at Ichabod, striking him and knocking him from his horse. Gunpowder, the ghostly steed, and the horseman disappear into the night, leaving only silence and mystery behind. The next morning, Gunpowder is found grazing near his master's gate, but Ichabod is nowhere to be seen. A search reveals only his hat and a shattered pumpkin near the bridge. The townsfolk speculate about his fate, some believing he was spirited away by the horseman, others suspecting more earthly explanations. Ichabod's few possessions are examined: some clothes, a razor, a book of psalm tunes, and a few other odds and ends. His magic books and a failed poem for Katrina are burned by his former host, who swears off education altogether. The schoolhouse is abandoned, and a new teacher takes Ichabod's place. The disappearance of Ichabod Crane becomes the talk of the town. Some believe he was taken by the Headless Horseman, while others think he simply fled out of fear or heartbreak. Years later, a visitor claims to have seen Ichabod alive and well in another part of the country, having moved on with his life. With Ichabod gone, Brom Bones soon marries Katrina. He's often seen laughing knowingly whenever the story of Ichabod's disappearance is mentioned, especially at the mention of the pumpkin. Some suspect Brom knows more than he lets on, but the truth remains a mystery. The story of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman becomes a favorite tale, told and retold around winter fires. The haunted bridge and the abandoned schoolhouse become objects of superstition, and the legend of Sleepy Hollow continues to cast its spell over the valley and its people. The tale is recounted by Diedrich Knickerbocker, who claims to have heard it at a meeting in Manhattan. The story's humor and extravagance are debated by the listeners, with some questioning its truth and others simply enjoying the entertainment. The storyteller himself admits that he doesn't believe half of it, leaving the legend open to interpretation. The narrator suggests that every situation in life has its pleasures, if we can take a joke as it comes. He wryly concludes that running races with goblin troopers is bound to be rough, and that being refused by a Dutch heiress might just be a step toward greater things. The story's true meaning remains elusive, adding to its enduring charm. The story of Sleepy Hollow, like many classic works, is available thanks to Project Gutenberg, which provides free access to literature in the public domain. The license allows anyone to read, share, and adapt these works, ensuring that stories like this one remain available to all. Project Gutenberg's mission is to promote the free distribution of knowledge and preserve literary heritage for future generations. The legend of Sleepy Hollow endures because it captures the imagination with its blend of humor, romance, and the supernatural. The story invites us to question what is real and what is legend, and to enjoy the thrill of a good ghost story. As long as there are firesides and long winter nights, the tale of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman will continue to enchant and entertain. As our journey through Sleepy Hollow comes to an end, we are left with the echoes of its legends and the timeless charm of its setting. The valley remains a place where dreams and fears mingle, and where the line between reality and imagination is forever blurred. Thank you for joining us in exploring one of America's most beloved ghost stories.